Tonight, Senate pledges speedy work on 2021 budget to be presented by President Buhari next week as House of Representatives withdraws controversial water resources bill. President Buhari orders extension of Itapa-Warri rail line to the south and north of Nigeria as he inaugurates project after 30 years. Nigeria records another victory against PNID as UK court orders release of $200 million guarantee sum to the country. And the UK records highest daily COVID-19 cases and deaths since July as world's coronavirus death toll exceeds 1 million. Plus business, sports and later from our studios in London.
On business news tonight, federal government seeks protection for whistleblowers as policy aids recovery of 700 billion naira within 4 years.
And on sports news tonight, Super Eagles defender William Troost Ekong completes move to English Championship side Watford.
Activities at the National Assembly have picked up again as federal lawmakers today resumed legislative proceedings after a 2-month recess. Already the lawmakers appear poised for active engagements this time as the Senate listed its agenda and lawmakers in the lower chamber engaged in a mild drama over the National Water Resources Bill. But we begin in the upper chamber where the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, asked his colleagues to expeditiously work on the 2021 budget, which President Buhari is expected to submit next week. He also notes that the Senate will ensure speedy work on the amendments of the 1999 Constitution and Electoral Act. Our correspondent, Linda Kigbe, reports.
It's back to work for these senators as plenary session resumes in the upper chamber after its recess. The National Assembly resumes at a time when Nigerians are reeling from an increase in fuel prices and an economy worsened by dwindling government revenue exacerbated by COVID-19. Senate President Ahmed Lawan reminds his colleagues that Nigeria is confronted with a huge revenue deficit and this presents huge challenges for the country.
We are confronted with an over $14 billion revenue gap and the grim reality of unwholesome overdependence on oil.
How can the legislature address these economic problems? According to the Senate President, the Senate must improve its oversight of MDA's implementation of revised 2020 budget, as well as efficiently working on the 2021 budget.
I'm aware that the executive will be presenting the 2021 budget estimates by next week. The oversights are even more imperative as the revised 2020 budget is targeted at addressing the specific challenges occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic.
The upper chamber also officially received correspondence from President Buhari on the eagerly awaited petroleum industry bill, which industry players anticipate will transform the sector. Moving from the economy, the Senate is also considering a matter of urgent public importance about the alleged illegal arrest, detention, rape, torture and extrajudicial killing of 28-year-old Ifeoma Abugu by operatives of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, in Abuja.
Further, this stated further records that since the extrajudicial killing of Ms. Abugu by SARS operatives in second week of September 2020, the FCT Police Command has, to the disappointment of relatives and concerned family members of the deceased, engaged in a blame game in a desperate bid to either exonerate the SARS operatives who were involved in the illegal arrest, torture and killing of the deceased.
The upper chamber directs its committees on police affairs and judiciary to investigate the alleged killing of Ifeoma Abugu by SARS operatives in the FCT Police Command.
Those in favor of this prayer say aye.
Linda Kibi, Channels Television News.
Resumption of lawmakers at the National Assembly has also not been without some drama, as witnessed today on the floor of the House of Representatives. It all began when the member representing Makurdi Guma Federal Constituency in Benue, Ben Mzondo, moved a motion questioning the procedure followed in the passage of the National Water Bill. However, the chairman of the House Committee on Water Resources drew the ire of his colleagues when he insisted the members complaining about the bill were in the chambers when it was passed by the committee.
Federal lawmakers in the House of Representatives resumed plenary session after 2 months of recess. The Speaker of the House, in his welcome address, says the lawmakers will maintain the January to December budget cycle, warning that any non-budget expenditure will not be tolerated.
There is an ongoing problem of ministries, departments, and agencies of government failing to implement projects and programs for which funds have been provided in the budget. Any expenditure of public funds outside of the Appropriation Act is a crime, as is a failure to implement programs and projects for which funds have been allocated and provided.
To the business of the day, a motion under privilege is raised by a member from Ondo State over the procedure for the passage of the National Water Resource Bill. He wants the bill rescinded.
This same water bill was stated as National Water Resource Bill 2020, but it was not treated as such. A bill that emanated in 2020 should have gone through first reading, second reading, and third reading before passage. It was not treated as such.
But there are dissenting voices, and this doesn't go down well with some members.
These bills followed the normal procedure of the House as enshrined, as enshrined in the order of this book, in order of this. Let's put it on a substantive motion, let it be on notice, and then we'll discuss it. Any attempt to change the rules, Mr. Speaker, we will challenge that decision.
And when the Speaker brings the ruckus under control, he asks the chairman of the House Committee on Rules and Business to withdraw the bill and re-gazette same before presenting it to the House for consideration.
Now to key infrastructure, with President Muhammadu Buhari today inaugurating the 326-kilometer Itakpe-Ajaokuta Warri rail line project and auxiliary facility yard. He directed that the new railway be extended to link with Abuja, creating a direct line between the north and the south before the end of his tenure as president. The president gave the directive while virtually commissioning the project from the conference hall of State House, Abuja.
The Itakpe-Warri rail line was conceived in 1987 by the military administration of General Ibrahim Babangida, and the project was abandoned after about 254 kilometers had been constructed. But in 2009, the project was again activated, only to be re-awarded in 2017. This paves the way for the official inauguration of the Itakpe-Warri rail line and railway ancillary facility yard by the federal government.
Top government functionaries from the federal level.
The event takes place at the Goodluck Jonathan Railway Complex in Agbo, Delta State, where the Governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Akeredolu, Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, as well as officials of the Nigerian Railway Corporation gather for the event. President Muhammadu Buhari joins the event virtually, and he directs the Ministry of Transportation to link all the nation's seaports and destinations to the rail network in order to significantly improve overall transportation and economic capacity.
It is my high expectation that this project, a vital link of south-south geopolitical zone of the country to northern zones, would be completed during the tenure of this administration.
In his address, the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Akeredolu, says 326-kilometer Itakpe-Warri rail line project is fully funded by the federal government after so many delays.
With the priority attached to the provision of railway infrastructure by Mr. President, and in readiness to complete this project, the federal government in August 2017 approved the contract for the reconstruction of the 54-kilometer of the Itakpe-Ajaokuta section of the rail line, construction of 12 ultra-modern station buildings, as well as intermodal
bus terminal in Itabe Station.
On his part, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa highlights the economic gains the project will engender in that corridor and asks investors to key into that opportunity of its completion.
In the post-COVID-19 era, where governments all over the world are looking for ways and means to rebound their economies, this project has the capacity to kickstart new small-scale businesses, support existing ones, and rejuvenate the rural economy. Indeed, our people are eagerly looking forward to reaping the immense socio-economic benefits of this strategic rail line.
Governor Ifeanyi Okowa then cuts the tape at the Goodluck Jonathan Railway Complex, after which the team heads into the train for a short ride.
To judicial matters now, where the federal government may have recorded yet another feat in its efforts to overturn the judgment of a UK court that ordered it to pay $10 billion in favor of Process and Industrial Development (PNID) over a failed oil deal. A London commercial court today ordered the release of the $200 million guarantee put in place as security for the stay of execution granted Nigeria for the appeal filed against the judgment of Justice Christopher Butcher for the executive of the arbitral award of $10 billion. PNID had sought to increase the security to $400 million, but the court presided over by Sir Ross Cranston rejected the request and ordered costs of £70,000 against PNID. A court earlier in the month granted another cost of £1.5 million against PNID. Meanwhile, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, has applauded the judgment, reversing PNID's claim, which he describes as a diversionary tactic and entirely misconceived. His statement reads, "Due to the substantial evidence of prima facie fraud established before the court, we are pleased that the judge has agreed to release the guarantee. This release, which is an accretion into the reserves, will further enhance the nation's management of the exchange rate of its domestic currency, the naira, while ensuring monetary and price stability." The statement adds that the federal government will not rest until justice is secured for the people of Nigeria, no matter how long it takes. Back home, a high court sitting in Jos, the Plateau State capital, has dismissed an application for the enforcement of fundamental rights filed by the former Central Bank Deputy Governor, Dr. Obadiah Melafia, for lacking in merit. Dr. Melafia had asked the court to grant an order stopping the Inspector General of Police from inviting him for further questioning, since he's already facing the same session before the Department of State Services. But Justice Arum Ashams ruled against the application, noting that the police have the constitutional powers to invite citizens in order to investigate allegations, especially as bordering on security issues. The Department of State Services had invited the former CBN Deputy Governor for questioning over his comments on the security situation in the country on a radio station. Meanwhile, a Kaduna State High Court sitting in the state capital has reserved ruling on the application by the embattled leader of the Islamic Movement in Nigeria, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaki, and his wife Zanat for a no-case submission. The court says the application should be set aside until the completion of processes. Delivering its ruling, the court holds that it is premature to quash the charges against the defendants in view of clear provision of Kaduna State's Criminal Administration of Justice law. El-Zakzaki and his wife Zanat are standing trial on 8 counts of culpable homicide, unlawful assembly, and disruption of the public peace, among other allegations. They have been detained since December 2015 following a bloody clash between IMN members and the Nigerian army in Zaria, Kaduna State. In part 2, after the break, we continue our assessment of different sectors of national life ahead of Nigeria's 60th independence anniversary, with a focus on security today. Join us again. Welcome back. If it has joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Senate pledges speedy work on 2021 budgets to be presented by President Buhari next week as House of Representatives withdraws controversial water resources bill. President Buhari orders extension of Itape-Warri rail line to the south and north of Nigeria as he inaugurates project after 30 years. Nigeria records another victory against PNID as UK court orders release of $200 million guarantee sum to the country. And UK records highest daily COVID-19 cases and deaths since July as world's coronavirus death toll exceeds 1 million. Plus business, sports, and later from our studios in London. President Muhammadu Buhari is asking the Senate to approve the appointment of 8 justices of the Supreme Court. The president's request is contained in a letter addressed to the Senate and read by Senate President Ahmed Lawan today. President Buhari says his action is pursuant to Section 231, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended and upon the advice of the National Judicial Council. The nominees are Justices Lawal Garba, Abdul Aboki, and Ibrahim Salawa from the Northwest, as well as Adamu Jauro and Tijani Abubakar from the Northeast. Others are Justices Samuel Oseji and Emmanuel Agim from the South-South and Helen Ogumuju from the Southwest. The President also sought the Senate's approval for the appointment of non-career ambassadors designate. As Nigeria prepares to mark its 60th anniversary, the question of how to tackle the numerous security challenges facing the nation remains topical. While the military continues to re-strategize how to curb the menace, security experts are also stressing the need for the federal government to have a workable national security policy capable of containing present and emerging security challenges. This report looks at the issues as Nigeria clocks 60.
In recent years, insecurity has constituted a hard nut to crack for the Nigerian state. Since 2009, Nigeria has been battling terrorism in the northeast, its biggest security challenge after the Civil War from 1967 to 1970. The situation is further compounded by the emergence of banditry in the northwest and clashes between farmers and herders in various parts of the country. Although the military has reported successes in its bid to contain the situation, the nation's security challenges remain.
Troops of Operation Hadarin Daji have continued to record serious successes against armed bandits.
Militancy in the South-South and the security threats from the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, appear to have abated. But the security challenges from these regions continue to serve as a constant reminder on the need to address issues that led to the 1967 to 1970 Civil War. With the continued attacks in southern Kaduna, coupled with the various military operations meant to suppress underlying grievances in various parts of the country, it is evident that the nation is yet to fully come to terms with the situation, but the military insists that all is under control.
The defense headquarters once again wish to reassure residents of the FCT and other adjoining states that the armed forces of Nigeria and other security agencies have been on red alert.
Information. For a former director in the Department of State Service, the worsening security situation can be blamed on underfunding of security agencies by governments at all levels.
The truth remains that security is not adequately funded, and the primary purpose of government is security and welfare of the people.
A security analyst puts the blame squarely on the government for its alleged failure to see security as a growing concern that requires a national security policy direction.
Now, the challenge we've always had with government is that they've always seen security measures as projects. Security projects are not supposed to be projects. Security measures are supposed to be programs, which means there will be room for review as things evolve.
With the problems identified, the question is how to overcome them.
It's my request that government should reprioritize our security in view of the rising wave of criminality in the society. We have so many challenges.
What we find common in our recruitment process is nepotism, cronyism. If we take care of that aspect of nepotism and allow for meritocracy to be the order of the day of our recruitment, we would have been able to bring in professionalism to the system.
As Nigeria marks its 60th independence anniversary, surmounting the present security challenges and other emerging threats remains the collective responsibility of all Nigerians and requires all factors to be put on the table for a lasting solution.
Let's now discuss this further. We've been joined now by retired Army officer Brigadier General Sani Usman. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Brigadier General Usman, thank you for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you so much for having me.
How would you describe the threats to Nigeria's security today?
Well, if you look at it, actually, the threat to Nigerian security in the present day is worrisome in the sense that there are some of the security challenges which shouldn't have been allowed to degenerate to that, to the extent it is now. Take, for instance, if you take the issue of banditry, we started as a kind of minor conflict. It has now degenerated to the extent now it's more or less like a commercial venture, more or less a kind of means of livelihood, and the war economy is blossoming. So when you look at it from that perspective and some other criminalities, it calls for, concern by all Nigerians. And I think the issue could easily be mitigated because of, realization of the fact that security is very important, and without security, you will not have development in any society, more so in Nigerian society. Therefore, there is a need to look at security from the perspective that it requires concerted effort by all stakeholders. And by all stakeholders, I mean the generality of the Nigerian society. Of course, the government needs to take lead on some of these issues so that some of the problems can easily be, decisively dealt with. We have abandoned quite a number of, measures or issues to the extent that now we are having these security issues. Take, for instance, the issue of, traditional means of conflict resolutions and the policing system, and, of course, concern about the well-being of Nigerians. Now, what we have, we don't even have a clear understanding of what exactly we are doing, to the extent that bulk of the issues are more or less segmented or individualized as against institutionalized, where there is continuity, synergy of effort to nip some of these security challenges in the board, even before they, manifest to the extent they are now.
You're really hitting this, the government hard on this, because it almost sounds like, the lack, of these measures that you've mentioned has helped insurgency and insecurity gain the upper hand in Nigeria.
Well, not exactly. It's a collective responsibility. Well, the government takes lead because the essence of government is the security and welfare of the people, more so in a democratic society in such as Nigeria. So it is not just issue of government. It's a collective responsibility in the sense that various components of Nigerian society have a role to play to ensure that Nigeria is secure. Take, for instance, in 2009, there is a national security strategy promulgated by the government in which it outline roles and responsibilities by various ministries, departments, and agencies and segments of Nigerian society. To what extent has this been followed through by all those concerned, the citizens themselves, the government agencies themselves? So it's a collective responsibility. You cannot single out the government as it is. I know Nigerians will say they are doing the best they could, but there is more room for improvement in terms of being security conscious and taking security as a very, very serious issue so that Nigerians will live in peace and, we enjoy democracy and development in this country.
You've given us a lot to think about. This is an ongoing discussion. Brigadier General Sani Usman, thank you again for joining us on the News at 10.
It is my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, the News at 10 returns. Federal government seeks protection for whistleblowers as policy aids recovery of 700 billion naira within 4 years. That's on Business News. Join us again. Welcome back. The chairman of the Presidential Judicial Commission of Inquiry investigating suspended EFCC chairman Ibrahim Magu for alleged abuse of office, Justice Ayo Salami, has denied claims that he regrets accepting the assignment. Justice Salami, in a statement, says he normally would not react to such claims, but he needs to set the record straight over what he describes as outright falsehood. It describes the reports as a figment of the imagination of the reporter, the two lawyers quoted as his sources, and the medium that published the story. He insists no such thing occurred in any meeting between himself and lawyers to Mr. Magu or any other person since the commission began its sittings. The judge adds that he has no cause whatsoever to regret his chairmanship of the commission, how much more betraying any form of emotion over it. According to Justice Salami, I see my appointment to serve as chairman of the Commission of Inquiry as an honor and call to service. Thus, my decision to accept diligently and patriotically discharge this responsibility. We go now to Ondo State, where the governor, Rotimi Akeredolu, has continued his campaign and tour of towns and communities across the 3 senatorial districts of Ondo State ahead of next month's governorship election. The governor's campaign train, which stopped at Ondo South Senatorial District, also had the chairman of the party's campaign council, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State, canvassing for Governor Akeredolu's re-election in Ikale land.
Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu with his Lagos State counterpart Babajide Sanwo-Olu arrived the palace of the traditional ruler of Ikale land. The meeting is part of Governor Akeredolu's re-election campaign tour ahead of next month's election. The elated traditional ruler lists the achievement of the governor with an assurance that his people will support him.
We are moving easily. A journey that would have taken us 3 hours is now less than 15 minutes. That's another achievement.
And outside, a large crowd gathers to welcome the governor and other party leaders. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who is also the chairman of the APC governorship campaign in Ondo State, speaks of the good works of the present administration in the last 4 years.
With our deputy governor coming from there, with the teeming population that I've seen from here, and with the commitment from all of the traditional rulers, I'm certain that even the southern senatorial district of Ondo, it's winnable for him. So it's going to be 3/3 for him.
Governor Akeredolu is proud of those achievements, promising to do even more.
You can look at the Ore bridge, the detention bridge. That is the icon of one of our programs. What we have done there, several governments before us had promised, but with the enablement of God, we're able to do it within 3 years because we opened it on our 3rd anniversary when the president came here.
The campaign train continues its tour of all communities and local government areas in the state ahead of the polls scheduled for October the 10th.
Meanwhile, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the upcoming Ondo governorship election, Ayo Salami, has condemned the attack on his campaign train in Owo today. Mr. Salami, who was speaking to newsmen at his campaign office in Akure, alleged that some suspected thugs allegedly working for the APC attacked his supporters in Ikbele and Owo during the campaign. According to Salami, many PDP supporters were reportedly wounded while a campaign truck was set ablaze. The PDP candidate said it took the intervention of soldiers to dislodge the suspected APC thugs. The Ondo APC had earlier accused the PDP of attacking its members, vandalizing some of its property in Owo.
We were today at our local government. We went to Ishuada, we were at Usho, we were at Ikbele. At Ikbele, we were attacked by gun-toting men of APC, shooting at us. As I speak with you, one Sikiru has been shot. We have also had Sheung shot also. About 3 of our people shot, taking them to hospital to go and get treatment. I just got a report now that our truck that we use as a podium has been burnt at Ikare Owo Junction. I do not know what they want to turn Ondo State into. And all we say is that we're for peace, they are for war. But then I do not know how they want to govern over a people that they are exterminating. The truth of it is that elections will take place. We're on ground, we will win by the grace of God. We're not discouraged. We're not going to be intimidated by any person. There's this sense of lawlessness, as if there's no federal government. Because the federal government is APC government, does not mean that they should allow lawlessness to reign. This was how Maiduguri started. This was how Zamfara started. This was how Plateau started. Now they're importing violence into Ondo State. And I think we call on federal government to stop this. They wanted to stop us from entering Owo. I was on the podium and they were shooting. Soldiers had to come there to drive them away. While we brought in policemen and soldiers and civil defense to protect us, they came with thugs. And I think this must stop.
Without regular testing, it is impossible to efficiently combat the COVID-19 pandemic. The view of the chairman, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Mr. Boss Mustafa, at the task force briefing, calling for a collective approach to keeping the numbers low.
Testing is the only way to detect, isolate, trace, and treat. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control has already issued an advisory on the consequences of not testing enough. The numbers are dropping when we compare on month-to-month basis, but we will still have to be vigilant. Health is a shared responsibility on the concurrent list and as partners in the fight against COVID-19. We urge subnational entities to tread on the side of caution by increasing the rate of testing in their jurisdictions. We desire the support of institutions, particularly religious, socio-cultural, traditional, etc., to insist on in-depth engagement at community levels, especially in observing the protocols.
Meanwhile, the Minister of State for Health, Mr. Olorunimbe Mamora, says the reopening of airports, businesses and schools in the country has made it even more important to come up with proactive and innovative ways of combating the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Mamora says this has been achieved by the Nigeria Institute of Medical Research with a molecular test that could produce results in less than 40 minutes.
The number of active cases has continued to drop, consistent with the general trend in Africa. We will continue to revise our discharge criteria in line with new knowledge of the disease, even as we continue to strengthen our case management pillar to provide effective and efficient quality care to all those who test positive, whether they're in our facilities or in home care. As business and schools begin to open and as travels begin to pick up, we fear that we may have a surge in the number of cases unless we scale up surveillance and review our response plan to integrate new ways to deal with the disease. In line with this, the Nigeria Institute of Medical Research has developed a molecular test for COVID-19 that can give results in less than 40 minutes. It is the SARS-CoV-2 isothermal molecular assay, SIMA, which can be performed by low-skilled personnel with minimum training.
Meanwhile, Nigeria's response to COVID-19 has received another boost with IHS Towers, a leading telecommunications infrastructure provider in Africa, donating test and calibration kits to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, the NSCDC. At the presentation ceremony in Abuja, the Director General of the NSCDC, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu, acknowledges that the kits will help to ramp up testing for COVID-19. In a related development, the United Nations Children's Fund commends Nigeria's COVID-19 response, describing it as a leading example in Africa.
The Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NSCDC, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu, taking round officials of IHS Towers and UNICEF to see firsthand the activities of the NSCDC as it handles testing for COVID-19 and other infectious diseases. Back in this hall, the Chief Executive Officer of IHS Towers presents test and calibration kits to the NSCDC.
We look at it in IHS that it's a moral obligation that we have to assist. Nigeria has been great to IHS for the past 20 years. We are where we are because of this great country and this great people, and the minimum that we really have to do is to try to give back in times of need.
The lack of testing kits was a major challenge when COVID-19 broke in February this year, but donations such as this by IHS Towers has helped the NSCDC to cope.
The work that we are doing was made possible by these donations, because if we didn't get these donations, maybe we wouldn't have been able to, do the number of tests that we have done so far.
The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, is however commending Nigeria's COVID-19 response, describing it as a leading example in Africa.
I have been in other West African countries, and definitely we are all trying to see Nigeria as the example in response to COVID-19.
In spite of the commendations, more effort is needed to flatten the curve of COVID-19.
Something we need to focus on is really try to drive awareness in the country so that people on their own, they come and test, and they come, and if they have any symptom that they understand they need to isolate themselves. I think that's what really is needed.
Our basic existence depends on how well, not how well NSCDC responds, but how well we respond as a society.
There are currently over 7,400 active cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria, having tested over 509,000 samples in the last 7 months.
Let's switch gears now to business news. Here's BC Adebayo. Welcome to Business News. The federal government says it's not going back on its whistleblower policy, but will continue to strengthen laws to ensure that the essence of the policy is not defeated. At a conference on whistleblower policy today in Abuja, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, explains that over 700 billion naira has been recovered through the whistleblower policy between 2016 to date. While calling for legislation that will protect whistleblowers in the country, she asked Nigerians to join forces with the government to reduce corruption. The whistleblowing policy in Nigeria is an anti-corruption program that encourages people to voluntarily disclose information about fraud, bribery, looted government funds, financial misconduct, government assets, and many other forms of corruption or theft. Since its adoption in 2016, assets and funds worth billions of naira have been recovered. Some of the major recoveries include the number 16 Osborne whistleblowing, which led to the recovery of $43 million, £27,000 and 23 million naira, as well as the recovery of $9.8 million in Kaduna State, among others. One thing that is still lacking, however, is the protection of persons who blow the corruption whistle.
This conference, therefore, is organized to harvest more inputs from participants. At the end, we hope to be able to develop a robust draft whistleblower bill for the consideration and approval of the Federal Executive Council and eventually for passage by the National Assembly.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo attends the meeting virtually. He is confident that the legislation to back whistleblowing in the country will encourage more people to expose corruption at all levels.
Certainty and clarity of the reporting processes and adequate protection of the whistleblowers would improve confidence in the initiative. Similarly, enhanced transparency and accountability in the implementation of the policy will result in more discoveries and recoveries.
After the event, the minister then speaks with journalists on how much has been recovered.
To date, we have been able to recover funds into the Federation, into the Treasury. Over 700 billion has been collected. I'm just converting it into naira. Some of the recoveries are in dollars, some are in naira, and also some assets have been recovered. Physical assets have been recovered.
While the whistleblower policy has over the years served as a means of exposing financial-related crimes and improving public confidence in government entities, experts are of the opinion that states and local governments must take ownership of the policy to give a boost to the anti-graft war. Nigeria's stock market is close to raising the last of the losses recorded from the first reported case of COVID-19 in the country as the all-share index rises for the 8th consecutive session to a 7th-month high at the close of today's trading. Ekaite Afia tells us more.
Thanks for joining us for the Stock Market Report. In yet another move, the bull has refused to slow down the pace against its market rival, the bears, as the month gradually winds down. Now, this time the winning streak on its part came with an additional 0.39% increase as investors maintain buying position on some high-value stocks such as MTN Nigeria, Bua Cement, and Seplat. So let's take a look at this. The sectoral chart ended for the green in a second consecutive day, and this reflects the intensity at which investors are returning to the local equities market. And that also added about 54.4 billion naira to the overall value of equities. So as we flip over to the activity chart, you can see the volume of shares traded today was higher by 22.7% against the previous day's turnover, while the value of equities traded jumped by 12.4% to 4.52 billion naira. Now, it's just one day left in the month of September, and the bulls are still maintaining their dominance on the market as we look forward to the outcome of Wednesday's trading session with more optimism. Thanks for joining us for the Stock Market Report. I'm Ekaite Afia.
And that's it on Business News. It's back to you, Amarachi. Thanks, Missy. The Ikoyi Club 1938 today marked its 82nd anniversary. At a press briefing in Lagos, the club says it will sustain the momentum in achieving excellent status.
The Ikoyi Club 1938, Nigeria's foremost recreational and social club, boasts of housing some of the high-profile sporting facilities. This year, the club is celebrating 82 years of fostering global harmony, social interaction and bonding through recreation. The chairman of the organising committee, Mr. Tafa Zibiri Aliyu, says the anniversary's theme, The Uplifting of Hope, was chosen to inspire its members amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
The club was locked down for over 5 months. Nobody was coming to the club. Everybody stayed at home. So we now felt, now that the lockdown has kind of been stepped down, and our birthday, which is today, of the club was coming up, the committee came together and said, look, we need to do something that will be familiar with whatever is going on. How do we tell people that, look, you do not lose hope? So this event of today is meant specially to make sure that we uplift ourselves.
Traditionally, the club's anniversary is a week-long celebration, but had to be scaled down this year in response to the mood of the moment.
It's a club that plays host to a lot of the high-level personalities in the society. Its location also makes a difference. The fact that it's located in Ikoyi, the fact that it's on the island, which is the commercial hub of Lagos State, or even of Nigeria, that gives us that advantage of hosting the high and mighty in the society.
The Ikoyi Club 1938 says it remains the leading club in Nigeria with the largest diversified and multicultural membership base.
It's coming down to the wire ahead of the U.S. presidential election as the first of 3 debates between incumbent President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden comes up tonight in the state of Ohio. A socially distanced debate will afford millions of Americans and the world a close-up look at the Republican and Democratic candidates, while the major candidates contesting the presidential election on November 3rd. This comes as the UK recorded more than 7,100 coronavirus cases, a new high since mass testing began in the country. The number of deaths recorded within 28 days of a positive test also rose as global death toll increases beyond 1 million.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The world's coronavirus death toll has passed 1 million, with the US, Brazil and India making up nearly half of the total. That's according to Johns Hopkins University. The Director General of the World Health Organization has said the milestone is a difficult moment for the world as he urged countries to bridge national boundaries to fight back against the virus. But the number is likely to be much higher as testing rates in many countries remain low, with virus-related deaths not being recorded.
Numbers that are currently reported probably represent an underestimate of those individuals who have either contracted COVID-19 or who have died as a cause of it. There are situations in countries where countries require a form of death certificate.
Under pressure over the virus, US President Donald Trump has said the federal government would start sending out millions of rapid tests to states this week. He has called on governors to place a priority on testing school children, though governors can use them as they choose.
Today I'm pleased to report that we're announcing our plan to distribute 150 million Abbott rapid point-of-care tests in the coming weeks, very, very soon. This will be more than double the number of tests already performed.
Nearly 100 people, including civilians, have died as battles rage on between Armenian and Azerbaijani forces over the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region. The mountainous enclave is recognized as part of Azerbaijan, but has been run by Armenians since a war ended in 1994. The self-proclaimed republic has reported 84 military deaths so far, as well as civilian victims. Azerbaijan has not revealed its military losses, but has confirmed 7 civilian deaths. The fighting has been the heaviest seen in the conflict since 2016. The alleged gang rape that resulted in the death of a 19-year-old woman from India's lowest caste by 4 upper caste men has sparked outrage in the country. The woman was admitted to hospital in Delhi 2 weeks ago with several serious injuries. The attack occurred on the 14th of September in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh. 4 men have been arrested. The news of her death in India has prompted many to take to social media and demand justice. Thailand's new army chief has pledged to follow his predecessor, who has taken a hard line against anti-government groups and emphasised the importance of protecting the monarchy. The appointment of General Narongpan Jitkaewtay in an annual military reshuffle comes as Thailand's army and palace have faced more than 2 months of anti-government protests. Army appointments are closely scrutinised in Thailand, where soldiers have taken power 13 times since the end of the absolute monarchy in 1932. With 5 weeks until the US presidential election more than 7,000 miles away, one activist in Uganda is asking American voters to consider the impact of their ballot on the climate. Vanessa Nakate has pointed to the US decision to pull out of the Paris Climate Accords as a sign that the world needs to do more. Her mission, she says, is to galvanise youth in her home country. Heavy floods have displaced more than 1 million people across South Sudan, Ethiopia and parts of Uganda in recent weeks and months.
With the rising global temperatures, the weather patterns are being disrupted, and Uganda as a country heavily depends on agriculture as a form of survival for many people, especially those in the rural areas. So with the rising temperatures, we are having short and heavier rainy seasons in some parts of the country, while others face longer and hotter droughts.
And finally, all 7 members of the South Korean K-pop group BTS are set to become multi-millionaires when their label Big Hit Entertainment goes public in October. Soaring demand for shares in Big Hit has given it a market valuation of $4.1 billion, with share prices at the top of the expected price range. It is a sign that BTS's popularity has not faded despite the group being forced to cancel their worldwide tour due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the risk that some of the members may soon have to do 2 years of compulsory military service. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Championship side Watford have completed the signing of Super Eagles defender William Troost-Ekong on a permanent transfer. He signed a 5-year contract with the Hornets and will wear the jersey number 5. He becomes the latest new addition to the squad. And Tottenham beat Chelsea 5-4 on penalties to reach the Carabao Cup quarterfinals after Eric Lamella's 83rd minute equalizer saw the game end in a 1-1 draw. Chelsea went ahead after 90 minutes in a positive first half for them, with Timo Werner scoring his first goal for the club since his summer move, powering an effort past the keeper. That's it on Sports News. Gemma, back to you.
And the main news again, lawmakers of the National Assembly today resumed sitting after a 2-month recess, with the Senate pledging speedy work on the 2021 budget to be presented to the President next week. That is the news at 10. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night.